Peace to the family, y'all. Peace, peace. Peace, love, and light. I'm not gonna hold y'all too long. I just bless up, bless up. Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you too long. You know, today is a very special, it's a monumental day. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to dialogue with you real quick. You know, just to bring you up on some information, you know what I'm saying, that you might not be cognizant of. You know, today is it's the 400-year anniversary of captivity in this country, allegedly, for Africans. Peace, y'all. All right. Yeah, shout out to London. We're going to be out there in October. All right. We'll be out there the beginning of October for your Black History Month festival. You know what I mean? Yes, indeed. Yeah, we'll be out in London, in the UK. Yeah, we'll be posting all of the activities and locations and stuff like that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? You know, this is a celebration. This is considered the Jubilee year. And it's considered the 400 years of captivity. You know, they are coinciding these 400 years of captivity with a biblical passage, I believe is Genesis 15:13, who speaks about the children of God being captive in a foreign land, right, for 400 years. Or the children of Ham, should I say, not even necessarily the children of God. You know what I'm saying? So people are making attempts to coincide this memorial, this 400-year jubilee, with that particular incident, for the lack of, you know, for the lack of history. You know what I'm saying? I have a tendency to look at the beginning of captivity in America's 1492. You know what I'm saying? And specifically 1493. 1493 is when Columbus came into contact with the first inhabitants of the continental United States, and that would be in the Virgin Islands, specifically in Salt Bay and St. Croix. On my birthday, November 14th, 1493 is when they first came into contact with melanated people. Melanated people, read his motherfucking documentation. Well, 1492 is when he came into contact with melanated people, because that was in the Isles of Hispaniola, what they call Haiti and the Dominican Republic and Cuba. You know what I'm saying? This is when he first came into contact with melanated people. You know what I'm saying? But in 1493 is when they came into contact with melanated people in what's considered the Americas, or, you know, American colony, not necessarily because St. Croix is not a colony, but American territories or United States territories. And they were met with conflict. The indigenous people of that island set it off on them immediately and caught a body, and they returned by catching the body. So there was blood spilled in Salt Bay. So to my cultists, to my ritualists, to the people who are really interested with turning the tide spiritually, you know what I'm saying? Because we do a lot of spiritual, I don't necessarily just want to say sacrifices, but there's a lot of ways that people want to address, you know, what has been done to us from the spiritual side, to cut those particular ties, you know what I'm saying, and find some sort of redress in the spiritual realm. That has to be done in the places where the blood was first spilled. You know what I'm saying? That has to be done in St. Croix. That has to be done in the Virgin Islands. That has to be done in the shores of Cuba. That has to be done in, the surrounding shores of Hispaniola. You dig what I'm saying? So, while I do look at 1492 and 1493, and I don't exclude the genocide, right, and the atrocities that were done to the indigenous people of this planet, of this particular region, first and foremost, before they brought any slaves over here, allegedly from Africa. You know what I'm saying? I don't exclude myself from that narrative. So I want to celebrate those people and the sacrifices that they made, and the fact that they were the first ones that were engaged in any quote-unquote transatlantic slave trade, because they took indigenous people from over here and they sent them to Spain. And they sent them to other parts of Europe, first and foremost, right? So they gutted this place out first for the natural resources, copper, gold, silver, right? And they murked off the majority of the inhabitants, okay? And then allegedly they brought some slaves over, right, from West Africa. And it was the Portuguese. You know what I mean? So when we have these conversations about where you want to put the smoke, and all of the redress that you feel in your heart, you know what I'm saying? And this constant conversation right now that we're having about reparations, I find it very funny that it's not inclusive of Portugal. It's not inclusive of Spain. It's not inclusive of the Catholic Church. You understand? Because the reason that they even came over here was from a papal bull that was issued, right, from the Pope, given to Ferdinand and Isabella for Spain to capture this side of the Isle, while Portugal and the rest of them had everything to the west. Okay, so that's what even brought them over here. That's the exploration that Columbus was on. You know what I mean? And Portugal was snatching people that they could find on the coast of Africa. The Gold Coast, Ivory Coast. Right? Because they was hunting Saracens or Moors. Right? So this is all a fallout from the Inquisition. This is all a fallout from, the Reconquista. Right? Them reconquering and them recapturing Europe. And I'm only telling you this because you should be as interested in its history as anybody else, because it will set you free. You know what I'm saying? Yes, scholarship is missing from the reparations conversation, and this is no knock to the ADOS or anybody else, Cobra, or anyone else who's spearheading that conversation, right? I was in the UN with Queen Mother Maribel when she was having these conversations about reparations years ago, and she got more traction on it than anybody else, from what I know, because she has the African countries backing her up. You know what I mean? She has them backing her up. But we need to focus and direct our angst to where it needs to be focused and directed towards. You understand? Spain should not be left out of this conversation. Portugal should not be left out of this conversation. Portugal brought the first slaves over to Jamestown August 20th, 1619, according to the official records, right? You know what I'm saying? This is when this atrocity started taking place on this particular landmass in regards to them bringing people over. They were shipping people out from here to other parts of Europe way before that. Do the knowledge, do the history, do the research. It's all there for you. You know what I'm saying? And you don't find no historical records of nobody looking like Tonto. No disrespect to the indigenous, quote-unquote, Native Americans of the Western Plains. I'm not talking about them. You don't find no history of them in bondage in Europe. You know what I'm saying? You find history of them sending people that look like us, copper tone, right? These were the people that were being sent over to Europe in bondage before 1619. You know what I'm saying? So they came over here and they raped and pillaged, and they took all of the natural resources from this place. And then they started bringing over people that were in, I don't necessarily just want to say, I'm not going to say indentured servitude. They were in bondage. They were prisoners of war, and they started working the fields for crop, but that was long after they already established their economic base. Their economic base was established from the thievery, from precious metals, from natural resources. This is how Europe got rich. This is how they got on an equal footing with the rest of the world. It wasn't necessarily slavery and all of the, the finances, the windfall of finances that came after that. That was way after that. Now we're talking about what was utilized to build up this corporation. But this shit was already raped and pillaged for the salvation of Europe to get on an equal footing. You know what I'm saying? So why we're not talking about that? Why we're not talking about the genocide that took place here in Americas of the indigenous people before any African slave set foot over here, You let Claude Anderson take you away from the conversation all you want. You know what I mean? But it's not one that should be utilized to pit one group of people against one another. You know what I'm saying? Both people became vassals under the motherfucking foot of Christendom, right? Both people felt the brunt of what started with Constantine in terms of his march for empire under the name of the cross. Both of them, fell victim under the footing of the Pope in the Catholic Church and Christendom and those papal bulls that was issued, right? So they could rid the world of the rest of the Moors who they was on the heels of after they expelled them in 1490 from Spain, specifically Grenada, which they also invaded over here. So this is not to take away anything from people who want to celebrate, you know what I'm saying? We also would say, look a little bit deeper into this whole story of Ham. Shout out to the brother A.A. Rashid and Buddha Clinks. I think I have a clip that I recorded a few months back when I was in LA with them, and he was really getting into the Hebrew and dispel, because the English translation is not on point in regards to that passage out of the Bible that speaks of the children of Noah seeing their father naked and the curse that was incurred as a result thereof. You know what I'm saying? And we got to get into who the Canaanites are and the children of Ham and all of that. So, all of these things need to be investigated and researched a little bit deeper if we are personally invested into these narratives. And this is the things that we utilize to live our lives and decide when we should celebrate and when we shouldn't. You dig what I'm saying? And then I would beg to differ to say, we're celebrating as a jubilee terms of or years of or a semblance of freedom, but here we are on the cusp of state-mandated vaccinations for your children. We are here on the cusp of state-mandated LGBT education for your children and kindergarten or some shit like that. First or second, however old, like they babies. They don't even know about sex. And their introduction and initiation into it is going to be same-sex education. So, how free are you? You dig what I'm saying? How free are you if this is what we're volunteering our children for? How free are we if, our children are mandated to get vaccines with all sorts of, you already know what's going into those shots. You dig what I'm saying? It's a semblance of freedom. It's not real freedom. You're not free to move about. You can't jump on a plane and go anywhere. You need a passport, right, to go into different military zones. So it's a semblance of freedom. People are even up in arms about the credit, the social credit system in China. How different is that from the U.S. credit system here? If you got bad credit, you can't get apartments. You're shamed in public, right? You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna have a hot girl summer. They ain't fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of discrimination that already comes with bad credit. You know what I mean? Social credit is just a whole nother layer of that. That means, oh, you niggas is online acting a fool, right? Trying to make people woke. Well, we got something for you, you know? We have a tier system. You know, they showed you that in Black Mirror, right? When they got AR, they're gonna have augmented reality. The police can look at your social credit ratings and say, oh, you got a red rating. You get a red hot. You know what I'm saying? You can't get on this car in a train. You gotta go to the back. You feel me? Or you gotta walk. But you damn sure can't get on this plane with all of these people with the nice blue credit ratings, social credit ratings, because they're gonna be terrified and scared. And Lord forbid, if we want people to be in this society fearful, what a foreign concept. You know what I'm saying? Fear in this society, that shit doesn't even go together, does it? So, you know, the facade continues. You know what I'm saying? We're in the throes of the political theater, you know, going into another election year. I just really wish that my people just don't get so caught up, you know, in the emotionalism of what's about to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because they're about to really take people on a ride this time around and really, you know, strum their emotions to keep them distracted and confused. You know, they're playing a game of Salugi, so you can't see what's going on over here. Yeah, all over imaginary currency. You know what I'm saying? Shit that exists in the air, blips on the screen, right? Calculations that you don't even yourself really understand. And this shit is a determinant for your life. Food, clothing, and shelter. You can't even get a crib certain places with bad credit. Or you're going to have to pay out of the pocket. And you're already paying out of the pocket, right? And that affects the rest of your livelihood. You dig what I'm saying? So we already live under a social credit system. You know, stop allowing these people to pull the wool over your eyes for you not to see the shit for what it is. You know what I'm saying? There's a lull, you know, there's a level of complacency, you know, not just in our people, in the American public, period, right? When we could talk about being the bastion of freedom. And like I said, you know, these people are volunteering your children for vaccination. You know what I'm saying? They in them hospitals cutting these women, you know, pulling babies out with C-sections and shit like that just for a check. You know, they have put finances over freedom a long time ago. And the people with the wherewithal to push back and to fight back and to really make a ruckus, you know what I'm saying? They're drinking fluoridated water. So that level of militants and all of that shit, you know, that's part of a bygone era. You know, that's not even here no more. You know what I mean? That's why you gotta drink your sea moss and take your gold water so you can decalcify your pineal gland and reactivate that active principle. You know what I'm saying? Because I got it up in my stories. They came out with a research that says that fluoride water affects the IQ, right? From the womb. So pregnant women drinking fluoridated water, tap water, for the lack of a better term, purified water that they sell in these stores, you know what I'm saying, that you could get for damn near next to nothing. You know, spring water, for you know, as far as I'm concerned, all this goddamn water got fluoride in it. Because purified water is just tap water recycled, right? And tap water got fluoride in it. So they've done the research and they're showing you that pregnant women drinking fluoridated water, you know, it vastly affects their children in the womb. Their children are coming out with lower IQ. Okay? So fluoride has achieved what fluoride has always meant to achieve, right? Population control, you know, the lulling of the population into a state of complacency where they can go for damn near just about anything. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but, you know, like, just lift your eyelids up and look at society. You know, they have achieved that shit. What about, no, distilled water doesn't have fluoride in it. Distilled water, they have removed all chemicals. It's flat water. You know what I'm saying? In order to utilize distilled water, you need to mineralize the water before you use it for drinking. You can use it for cooking, but if you're going to use it for consumption, you mineralize it. You put gold water drops in it, or you could put anything else. You could put dirt in it. You could put plants in it. You could put chlorophyll. You could put anything that's going to add mineralization to your water, your distilled water, if you're going to drink it. All right? Alkaline water, depending on the process that the alkaline water goes through, will determine whether it has fluoride in it or not. Because these machines, right, Kangen machines and the rest of them that make water alkaline, those machines are not removing the fluoride from the water. Okay? Yeah, sea minerals are excellent. And diatomaceous earth, excellent as well. Right? All of these are great. Okay? Alright, that's what, okay. So the young lady said that she used non-fluoride toothpaste for 5 years. Wait, with it, I want to make it, okay, for 1 year, and she got 5 cavities. So her dentist told her that the fluoride was for cavities or what have you. What were you eating in the interim of that year? And I'm not coming at your diet. I'm just saying, was it a heavy content of sugar? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's like 5 cavities in 1 year, and they're gonna blame that on the fluoride. They'll never talk about what you ate, but they'll blame it on the non-fluoride toothpaste, right? Right? Yeah. So you got no cavities or what have you, but you got a low IQ and you got lesions on your brain. I take the cavities. You know what I'm saying? I'll take the cavities. If the choice is ours, and I think that this conversation, that's what it's about. If the choice is ours, we're being left where the choice is not ours, right? But we are led to believe that we're free. If you don't have freedom of choice, like, what are you free of? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you have free of? Okay. The dentist said as long as you don't swallow the fluoride, it's okay. So we have a toxic chemical that we're putting topically in our mouth, right? Our gums are made of the same matter as our heart, right? A very delicate tissue. So if we're brushing constantly, you don't think that all of that is being absorbed in our tissue, right? Look around your mouth, right? Even think about how porous your tongue is, right? It's like a sponge. You dig what I'm saying? So how is something that's toxic not coming to contact in our headspace with our gums, with our tongue, and going directly into our brain? But they tell us that if you swallow it, you gotta call, all sorts of chemical poison centers and shit like that. Like, I would just beg to differ and say, if we have any level of common sense left, we just need to utilize it to look at how crazy that shit sounds. You feel me? We just have to look at how crazy that shit sounds. And sweetheart, I'm not talking about we all crazy at the end of the day. This is not me signaling you out. You know what I'm saying? This is not about you per se. We have all been victimized by a level of complacency. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't hear the violin being played, but the fucking violin is continuously being stroked in everything that takes place in this society. And we've just been lulled to sleep. And we accept everything that's told to us. And we gobble it up. You know what I mean? Yeah, in indigenous lab, we could show you the fluoride in your blood, I'm sure, right? And that's possible because I have people with the with those microscopes that can look into the blood and show you everything that's in your blood. Yeah, so I never mean to offend, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be putting my neck on the line for anything if I didn't care about us. You know what I mean? If I didn't care about us and just seeing things from different perspectives, you know, that don't mean that you got to get out there in a soapbox and share it with the world. Just for yourself, for your family, for your friends, your immediate loved ones. You know, I just want us to get back to that place that, you know, we love identifying ourselves as, you know, that place of greatness. You feel me? The fact that we do have, you know, this beautiful melanin and we getting all of these transmissions from the sun. You know what I mean? We getting all of this information. We supposed to be at the forefront of any conversation. You dig what I'm saying? Because it's supposed to be coming to us like this. You know, we're supposed to be getting instantaneous downloads, but we're boggled down by all of these chemical agents that are working to our detriment. You feel me? And I just want to not see us in that place. Since, like I said, since today we are celebrating 400 years of captivity in this country. Do you know that it's only been 55 years since we're considered to be 100%, again, watch the word free, where there's been a level playing field, right? A level playing field. So there's no segregation, discrimination, Jim Crow laws, none of that. It's only been 55 years since the Civil Rights Acts went into motion. And that is when this government said, look, they have removed all of the fetters, all of, you know, the roadblocks away from quote unquote so-called black people, where now there's an even playing field, and they have afforded us the level of equality that their documents said that we have always or should be afforded. It's only been 55 years. 55. Right? Right? Only been 55 years. Right? So-called slavery only ended in the 1860s, allegedly. Right? And civil rights came not too long after that, in the 1960s. Roughly 100 years after the abolishment of slavery. So it hasn't even been 200 years. Right? We're not even dealing with a 200-year history of all-out, you know, freedom, if you will, off of the fields, out of captivity per se, but only 55 years of an even playing field, right? And then, you know, the onslaught of drugs came right after that. Onslaught of drugs came right after that. Yes, and not only crack cocaine, not only heroin, white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, you know what I'm saying? Fluoride. Okay, so we're talking all sorts of chemical warfare, all out. You know what I mean? Where we have these conversations about, well, goddamn, well, how are our people so fucking brilliant in the late 1800s? I'm talking immediately out of slavery. I can pull the inventor list out. You know what I'm saying? Everything is goddamn attributed to us. The refrigerator, the icebox, the radiator, the motherfucking refrigerator, the traffic lights, shoes, boots, you name it, wrench, you name it, we did it, right? Immediately coming off of the fields where we didn't have a historic reading history, right? We didn't know how to crack a book open other than the Bible. You feel me? Who the fuck were these people? Who were these ancestors? And why don't we know their names? Why don't we have an altar set up? Why don't we have days set aside for them, where we are acknowledging their existence? These are our immediate ancestors. Look at the contributions that they made to our greatness. I don't think that they was drinking fluoride. You feel me? How are they even able to find the motherfucking patent office, let alone get a patent? So we're talking about the ones that we know about. They were attributed to these patents that didn't get robbed. What about the ones that got robbed? What about Latimer with the light bulb? You know what I'm saying? What about Benjamin Banneker? You know, laying out the motherfucking the layout for DC lined up to the Sirius constellation. You know what I'm saying? What sort of Masonic lodge did he belong to? You know, or was he the lodge? You know, so who are these great noblemen? Because every picture that you see them, they're upright. You know what I'm saying? You could just see the nobleness in them. And this is allegedly right outside, immediately after slavery. Who are these men? They didn't, according to the narrative of what we continuously told us, they had the trauma. They had just experienced slavery. They didn't know who their mothers and their father was, right? But they were still in their creative bag. They weren't traumatized to the degree where they was arrested in their development. You know what I'm saying? They were creating. Where did they source the parts from? You know what I mean? Where did they source these parts from where they were able to construct these devices? And then where did they get the money to fund even to get the patent or the production, the manufacturing of these devices, said devices? And what ultimately happened where these devices are no longer part of their family, right? That there's no generational wealth being generated from the use of these devices, or even the invention or the creation of these devices, where said industry has not put aside a fund to be like, look, we're going to honor the progenitors of this particular industry, or the progenitors of this device that makes this industry do what it do. So I be having a lot of questions, you know what I'm saying? And every now and then, we come on here and we share some of these questions with the family, with the hopes of not only sparking somebody else's minds, but maybe even starting a dialogue where we can get some answers. You feel me? Because a lot of shit just don't make sense. I always feel like I'm in an upside down world, because the shit don't be making sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're going to tell me 7 generations later that I'm traumatized by an experience that I technically wasn't physically there for, but the people who were physically, technically there were not traumatized for it. They got busy immediately coming out of that shit. We had millionaires, politicians, all kind of shit. Stop falling for the false narrative about CJ Walker, none of that. That's not real. Like, they had millionaires before her. They don't want you to know about those millionaires because of what those millionaires were doing and how they referred to those millionaires. The fact that they had to change some of these darkly, deeply melanated people's status into white, right? That would expose the fact that this designation of black or white is a social construct. It does not denote somebody's racial status necessarily. Whiteness is very new. Very new. Yes, it would expose the fact that the young sister, I forget her name, we spoke about her on Tough Talk Tuesday. She was a landowner, right? A small, demure, small sister, but she became a millionaire for that land. They ain't gonna talk about Anderson Willis, right? And some of Anderson Willis's family pulled up on us last weekend in Harlem, right? This is the brother out of Texas. He owned 1/4 of Texas, okay? He was originally from Ethiopia. He had $25 million in gold bars. He traveled across from Virginia to Texas and bought 1/4 of Texas. Ultimately, the land that he owned is where Standard Oil got their shit off initially. And Standard Oil later on going to be Exxon Mobil. So they cut checks to these people's family. You know what I'm saying? Majority of his land had oil underneath it, We talking about land that was worth trillions of dollars. You know what I mean? And they did the same shit that they always do. Paper gangsters. So they go in there and they manipulate your paperwork, shit like that, because all of this shit is about black and white, not the race, black and white paperwork, right? Shit is all about paperwork. So, yeah, Mary Ellen Pleasant, thank you. Right? Mary Ellen Pleasant. Do the fucking research. Look into Herndon. I think his name is Alan Herndon, Herndon, right? First millionaire in Atlanta, right? From barbershops, from cutting hair, grooming hair. He had the Herndon house, right? Very elaborate, established mansion down there. We talking in the 1800s. Talking in the 1800s, y'all. Right? And there were many more. Look up Anderson Willis. Google this shit, man. Like, Google this shit. You know what I'm saying? Don't take my word on it. Look these people up. Mary Ellen Pleasant, right? She had so much bread they had to change her status to white so she can travel in the boxcars. You know what I mean? They had to respect her gangster. They changed her status. That's all it fucking was. It's a political status. It's not a race. So I don't want y'all to get caught up in the hype, in the lies and the propaganda and the misinformation. You know what I'm saying? I can only speak for myself personally. I'm going to celebrate my people, and I'm going to acknowledge their highs and their lows. You know what I'm saying? So the genocide and the travesties and did not start in 1619 in this country. It started in 1492 in this country. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to exclude that part of my history, right? And shout out to the Shinnecock, okay? If you are in New York, I would highly recommend that for the weekend of Labor Day, that you not only, just go to the Parkway, right? And then you take a day out, Saturday or Sunday, and go to the Shinnecock Powwow, which is in Southampton, right? And them goddamn crackers invaded my people's land in the Hamptons, and they took land and built all of them goddamn houses. But the Shinnecock have never been conquered as a people. These are melanated people. These are my people. They look just like me. They look like Snoop Dogg and shit like that. You can go out there to the powwow and see this for yourself. I kid you not. Go and see these people. Ask them about their history, because their history has never been interrupted. They will give you the full motherfucking breakdown. They'll take you to the museum. They'll take you to the... You can see what indigenous people on this planet look like in this country. In the 14 and the 15 and the 1600s, all the way up until now. Because those people have never been interrupted. We're talking about the Montauk Indians, okay? We're talking about the Shinnecock. We're talking about Wyandanch, the 5 civilized tribes. Long Island was always looked at as one indigenous island, right? Of which Queens and Brooklyn were always a part of. Okay? This was a massive piece of land, and it was 5 tribes that controlled it. You feel me? And all of them were melanated. The melanated tribes of Canarsie here in Brooklyn, all of these were melanated, deep melanated tribes. Coney Island, right? Look up the person that they say founded Coney Island, which means this would be the first considered quote-unquote European to make contact with that landmass when indigenous people were already there, and either through war, through treaty, reproposition that land. It's still recognized as being established by a Moor, right? And this Moor was related to Jackie Onassis. This was her family, okay? He was recognized as a Moor. He was a tawny Moor, meaning a dark Moor, melanated. Exactly. That's why you got the 5 boroughs. So Long Island, Queens, and Brooklyn are all one landmass. There's no separation of that landmass. It's an imaginary demarcation line. Do the knowledge. Like, take a ride. You know what I'm saying? Up the Belt Parkway and shit. There's nothing that separates Long Island and Queens, other than the plaque that says this is Long Island and this is Queens. It's all one landmass. There's nothing that physically separates Queens from Kings County or Brooklyn. It's all one landmass. So all the way from the very tip, right, of Montauk, the eastern point of Long Island, all the way down to wherever the shit ends in Brooklyn, whether it be Coney Island or not, all of that was considered one landmass. And they split the shit up. Okay? So if you find time before we go to Eastern Parkway, because we're going to see our people embracing, interacting, and acting out indigenous ceremonies in feathers and leathers. Okay? That's what you're going to see when you go to Labor Day. And those people are expressing how they celebrate throughout the islands of the Americas. Those were always celebrations by peoples that look just like us in the Americas in those islands. Always. Always. Not when they brought quote unquote slaves there. Okay? Those what them people always look like. And you could back that up by going to the powwow in Shinnecock and seeing melanated indigenous people doing the same thing, and they will tell you this is their time-honored tradition. It has never changed. You feel me? So, Gangs of New York movie exposed that as well. Okay? The Gangs of New York, right? But they was talking about the five and all of that in there. Yes, that's my father's people, the Moorlands, right? Or more like the Forsters, you know? So, it's and the powwow is beautiful, you know what I'm saying? You can look up the Shinnecock powwow. It's going to be the weekend of Labor Day weekend. And I'm going to do my best to make it this year as well. Shout out to Turtle Gang, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to I don't know why, I don't remember the sister's name. The indigenous sister that's a political activist. I've interviewed her. It's my people. Yasanda. I don't want to, because her name is so beautiful. I don't want to jack her name up. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. She's a political activist. She's an indigenous sister. She's been on Breakfast Club and many other appearances. Beautiful sister, right? Check her out. Yeah, there you go. Right? Go to the Shinnecock powwow. See those people and ask the elders questions. Ask them, how long have your people been here? Has there ever been, because the only interruption, leave it to Claude Anderson, he would say, oh, they had slaves. That's why they're dark skinned. That's why they're melanated. They never had that. They was in the eastern part of Long Island. They shit was uninterrupted. Right? You got to get the book Pyramids of Montauk. When they say that these people, these Montauk Indians, had pyramids on their land, that these Montauk Indians had a historical record that they said that they sailed over at the time when Atlantis sunk. They were the people who sailed over to Kemet and populated Kemet. How about facts? Right? They have they had pyramids that were built out of quartz or some crazy shit like that. High science. And these are the people whose land was repropositioned by the Brookhaven Lab, and they created the Manhattan experiment where they was able to time travel, right, with Jack Nichols and Peter Moon and all of them. I done brought Peter Moon on Know the Ledge 2 or 3 times to tell this story. Repeatedly. Go in the archives and do the research. Right? I did the work. Right? Long time. You just got to follow up on it. The shit is out there. Why does she straighten her? Who are we talking about in particular who straightens their nappy African hair? Right? You talking about the sister? I ain't gonna get into that. But yeah, just wanted to leave y'all with this because there's gonna be A lot of celebration taking place today. You know, the native on Breakfast Club, you gotta ask her that. You know what I'm saying? But I explained that she's indigenous in this landmass. You know, I'm gonna go with the Moors and say that this is Northwest Amexem, this is Africa as well. Okay? You know? I mean, yeah, every time that I've seen her, I've never seen her with straight hair. And that's what you call straight hair. Not like what these women out here be doing, pressing their shit. She ain't had one of them. Her shit got body in it. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know. I don't really know how to answer that. You feel me? So, there's going to be a lot of emotionalism based on the ceremonies that are taking place today, you know, this 400-year window. But I just wanted to put that into perspective, you know, while we're celebrating 400 years and the freedom that we have attained in this landmass, you know what I'm saying? I just want you to ask yourself some very key questions. Like, your babies also got to go to school this week. They got mandatory vaccination. What free people allow their children to be vaccinated with fucking monkey brains and shit like that? Lord knows what else. You know what I'm saying? What free people allow their 6 and 5 and 6-year-old children to be indoctrinated with LGBT education? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be taught that at some point in school if that's your thing. But why it can't be like when they're teenagers, after they have established relationships, you know, after they have made their minds up, you know, hormonally about what they want to do and how they want to do it, or they have started the explorations into their sexual inclinations. You know what I'm saying? Why not start there? Why should their first introduction and education be about some shit that they can't make sense of with their minds that are not fully developed yet? You program a child from the years of 0 to 7, you are impressing upon them their subconsciousness, right? You're impressing upon their subconscious programming, of which will now be run through the rest of their lives, because we only run off of 5% of our conscious programming for the rest of our lives. 95% is subconscious. You understand? So if it is an agenda, how far does this shit reach? You know what I'm saying? You already see the people who are at the very tippity top, and this is no longer a fucking conspiracy, are pedophiles, child rapists, right? Got, as long as I'm concerned, they motherfucking eating babies and drinking blood, right? And that's no cap, as the youngsters would say, right? So how far up does this shit go, where the people in power have now mandated as clearly an agenda that the indoctrination of your children has to be introducing them to alternative lifestyles? You feel me? At a point in which they're not even sexually active to make sense of this shit. But you celebrating freedom, right? Motherfuckers is not up in arms. You know, you got all of these beautiful fucking pictures of your children going to school today, yesterday, and shit like that. And not to take nothing away from the little ones, but god damn it, like, fight for them to have a better chance of making their own minds up. Like, ain't that what we've been fighting for? Even with the LGBT, ain't that what they fighting for? Right? People should have a right to make their own minds up and live their own lives and freedom and this, that, and the other. So why if our children are not afforded the same motherfucking choice makings or freedoms? Why are you forcing this down their throat? Pause. This is what you fought for? Because let them tell it, you know, oh, this is not where you want to be. This is not the best place, you know what I'm saying, that you want to be at. And, you know, if I had a different decision, I was born this way, so it wasn't my choice and things of that nature. Granted, right? But you would agree and acquiesce to children being indoctrinated into that lifestyle. You feel me? So there's a lot that we should be looking at this particular date, point in time in our history when we're celebrating, you know, our freedom and our Jubilee year going into 2020. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to 19 Keys. This is the year of the keys, of course. You know, again, not to take nothing away from 1619, I would also want to say, let's have a broader discussion about the people who are actually responsible, right, for this fucking redress. Like, I mean, who are responsible for this terror campaign, who are responsible for snatching our people up. The Portuguese, right? The Portuguese, and then Spain, and then the fucking Catholic Church, okay? Let's bring them to task. Let's bring them to motherfucker. Let's create a class action lawsuit against these governments. And let's request some redress from them. Not even the United States government on some reparation shit. Let's go for the church, right? And let's go for Portugal, because they're the ones who scooped them Africans up off of the coast and brought them over here, right? And let's go for Spain, because they sent Columbus over here. And he wrought genocide, right, to this landmass. And he enslaved the indigenous people of this country and sent them to Europe for servitude, right? While they raped and pillaged the natural resources over here. So if we're going to go about this shit, let's go about it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Let's go about it the right way. You know what I mean? If we're going to shoot darts and you know, get these arrows ready, you know what I mean? Let's direct our darts in the right direction. You feel me? Because the doctrine of discovery is the first international law and has never been rescinded. It's still on the records. It's still on the records. And the government, the church, the popes have not apologized or rescinded the papal bulls. The papal bulls are actually still the Interterra, I think I'm pronouncing it. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, you know, you could do the research. Don't hold me to that. But these are the papal bulls that gave them the right to come over here and conquer these lands in the name of Christ, right? On the name of the cross, right? I hate how they give Christ such a bad name, right? The Christos. You dig what I'm saying? In the name of Jesus. How about that? You feel me? So, I ain't gonna hold you too long. I appreciate your time. You know, it's a scorcher out there if you in the city. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, drink your water. Stay hydrated, not fluoridated though. You know, make sure that your water that you're drinking don't got no fluoride in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we need to be like Christ. You know, yeah, and just keep it light. Keep it light for the day. You know what I mean? This is a heavy day with heavy implications about an atrocity that took place in this country, chattel slavery. You know, light a candle for the ancestors, send a prayer up. You know what I'm saying? Look, slap the shit out of somebody if you need to. You know what I mean? Do what makes you feel complete and right in your spirit. You dig what I'm saying? But at the same time, you know, put a candle up for all of the ancestors of this indigenous island, of this indigenous turtle island, what we call it. You know, let's stop separating how we acknowledge the people who were unjustly victimized, you know what I'm saying, by this machine. Yeah, burn that Captain American doll if need be. You feel me? Yeah, just do something that acknowledges the ancestry, you know what I mean, of this landmass. You know what I mean? Just do something that acknowledges the ancestors. All right? Yeah, and Tough Talk Tuesday, you already know. It's going down tonight. You know what I mean? There might be a modification. I can't speak on that right now. But, yeah, definitely tough talking tonight. All right? So peace, love, and light. Go get your Gold Water at goldwater.com or at Goldwater on the Instagram. You know, familiarize yourself with the product. All right? Appreciate you. I love you. Have a wonderful day. Be safe out there. Be mindful of this heat index. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, also, you know, don't get scary and shit. You know, I think that, like, when we look at the news, we get confused because a lot of that's dog whistles that they blow into one another. You know what I'm saying? About how they can't deal with the motherfucking sun and they can't deal with the heat. That shit, and we be ear hustling on other people's conversations, and then we start thinking that they talking to us. They're not talking to you. You feel me? As long as you stay hydrated, you dig what I'm saying, and don't eat no heavy ass greasy food, you go out and you embrace that sun. You know what I'm saying? You allow them downloads. You know what I mean? You allow the sun to you know, to kiss you and what have you. You know what I'm saying? Go outside with no shirt if you need to. Like, you know, the less clothes, the better. If you really want to be indigenous. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah, eat that sun. You know, don't run from that shit. Better not see you out here with no motherfucking umbrellas and shit like that. Dig what I'm saying? So don't get caught up in somebody else's conversation. They talking to one another. They ain't talking to you. You out there with motherfucking sunscreen on. Nigga, they ain't talking to you. Right? You got to advertise some shit that wasn't for you. You was listening to somebody else's conversation, and you fell for it. Right? So I'm going to go out here. I'm going to eat this sun up. I'm going to be unapologetic about it. You feel me? And I'm going to utilize this moment in time. You know, we're still under Leo. I'm going to think about the sun people. I'm going to think about our connection to the continent. I'm going to think about these ancestors. I'm going to think about the indigenous ancestors here. You know, I'm going to think about all of that energy rising up. You understand? And that's what I'm going to, you know, when I sun gaze later on, I'm going to communicate to the ancestors, you know what I'm saying, through that portal. You feel me? That they rise up and they turn this shit upside down and twist this shit inside out. Peace, love, and light.